Okay, in this week's video I'm going to try and answer every question I've ever gotten about turning antler. Right then, for this week's video I'm just going to use one camera because it's all close-up stuff. Right, and I think with everything being so close up, just using the three cameras would just be confusing. So I'm just going to use the one camera. Right then, anybody who's watched the channel a while knows I turn quite a lot of antler pens. Right, I'm in the middle of a batch at the moment. It's not this kit I'm going to do now, it's another kit that I'll be showing later because it's a special for an occasion. I mentioned it months back on a video. Right, what I'm going to try and do is, anytime I do turn antler, I get a lot of questions about it. Right, so what I'm going to try and do is answer all of the questions in one video. Some of the questions I've already answered, some I haven't, right? But I figure if I get it all in one place, then anybody who wants to know can just go to one video and get the answers they're looking for, right? Now, we'll start off with antler itself, right? These are two different types of antler, right? This one is Irish Red Deer and this one is Sika. Right, they look the same, those two do. Here's another example of Sika. You can see it's different than that one. Right, we use that one, it's a better example. Right, these are the two that I use because these are the two I have available. Right, one of the questions I get asked is, I got asked this one once. I've torn tusk, is it the same as turning antler? No, it's not. A tusk is a tooth. Antler is a bone. It's not like a bone, it is a bone, right? It's just a bone that sheds, right? Right, as I said, it's not the same as tusk. Antler is a bone. Now, you can see that if I grab this piece, right? This piece I've got for a couple of examples, right? In there, in the middle, grab something to point with, Shay. Right, grab a screw here. Right, that in the middle is marrow. It's bone marrow, right? Pull up here to where I know the camera's focused, right? That in the middle there is bone marrow, and this is the hard outside, right? There is a way you can turn marrow. Like anything else, it's quite easy. There's a couple of tricks to it. I'll show you them when we get there, right? This out here is a hard outside, which is what we're looking for basically when we're turning antler, right? This piece here, piece of natural shed, I've cleaned off the end, right? But there's hair on it. If you see hair on it, don't turn that, right? Don't turn the piece with the hair on it, because to be honest with you, it's horrible, right? Now, this piece is a couple of years old, right? That's another question I get asked, right? And a comment I get. I'd love to turn antler, but I can't. But I've heard it's really smelly. I can't stand the smell. That kind of thing, right? Antler has got a smell off it. The reason you get a really strong smell is because the antler is too fresh. You need to leave antler a couple of years to completely dry out, and then and then there's hardly any smell of it. Now, I have a piece here somewhere. Right, this piece here, if you look at it, the marrow is really soft, it's really flaky, right? It just pops out, right? That has been left a bit too long, right? You can see compared to that marrow, you see the size of the holes in there, right? They're huge, right? Whereas this one is nice and tight. This one has been left a little too long, right? But you can still turn that. All you've got to do is flood in there with thin CA, first before you even start, and it'll hold together until you can get to the stage where you make the marrow smooth, right? Another question I get asked is, the outside of my antler is really rough, does it matter? Right, there's a piece of Irish red there. The outside's really rough. It's the same as that. Once you get the roughness off the surface, it doesn't make a difference. It's fine, right? What I've found is, if you get a really rough one like that, it seems to be that there isn't much marrow in it. So if you can actually get stuff that's really rough like that, brilliantly, right? Another question, where do I get it? Right, well, I've told you where I get mine, right? Yeah, I do have those pieces, right? Right, if you can't get it the same kind of way I get it from Natural Drop, right? You can buy it online in blanks, but it's very expensive, right? A good tip is, go to your local big pet shop and go to the dog chew section. They sell this as dog chews, right? It's the cheapest place you're gonna get it, right? That, and you're not then restricted to the size, to the blank size you can buy, right? If you happen to be into it and know some deer hunters, they're only too happy to get rid of this stuff, right? Now we'll get to the marrow itself. Now we'll get to turning it, right? I think that's all the questions I've had on just antler, right? We'll get to turning it. Now what I'm going to do is, as I said, I have a batch here that I'm turning at the moment, right? I've turned 4 of them. I do them in batches of 10 because this box keeps all the blanks together, right? This is for another kit. It's not for the one I'm doing now. I'll do a video on this kit when it's closer to the time, but I have a lot of these kits to get through. I've 40 of these kits to get through, so I'm just picking away at them when I have time, right? But the kit I'm going to use this time is, right, on the stall we have what we call a lady's pen, right? And I like the one we're using, but then again I don't. Right, so this is a new kit I'm trying out with a Parker refill for what I call my lady's pen. Right, so it's the first time I'll be turning this kit. Right, and what I'm going to use for it is 2 pieces of Sika. Right, now drilling antler. It's the same as drilling wood, but you've really got to watch heat, right? Heat is really, really bad for antler, right? It causes it to crack. Now, I have 2 drill bits here. I'm just got to find out which one's the right one. I had to buy 2 new drill bits. One is for an order. That one. One's for an order I have for £3 for a client. Yeah, I'll do them, Thomas, don't worry. I'll be doing them this week, hopefully. I didn't get a chance to get out here last week. Right. Right. And your drill bits, no, where was I? Yeah. Right, for drilling them slower, and your drill bits do need to be sharp. Right. What you're trying to drill out, if possible, is the marrow. Right. If you can get that marrow out, you're away in a hack. Now, there's a little piece here that I'm not going to be able to get out. I can show you how to treat marrow when we get there. If not, if I can't, what I'll do is I'll stick one of the pieces from the other kit on to show you how to treat marrow, because this seems to be the biggest problem anyone has, right, is when they're trying to treat marrow. Right, so I'll set up for drilling this and I'll be back in a second. Right then, I'm set up to drill the first one. Now, when you're setting up to drill, there's normally a little bit of a curve in antler, right? Aim for the center of whatever end you're drilling into, right? And how you can move it around is slide it in and out of the jaws and the part you grab will change what part of this you hit, right? As I said, I'm trying to answer all of the questions in one. Right, now I'm going to drill at about 350. When I'm starting, I'm going to go really slow to make sure that that drill bit cuts into the middle. Then I'm just going to drill it out. As I said, I'm doing it at 350. I'm trying to go as through the marrow as I can get. Now, something you do have to do with this is you do have to withdraw it and clean it off, because it will grab your drill bit. Right, all the way through that one. Right. Pull it out and do the same thing again on the other end. Right. Now, sometimes what will happen is you'll get through here and you'll get really thin. Luckily there I didn't. Right. So I'll grab the other part, I'll drill that out, and we'll get this sorted. Right, so there's the two of them drilled. Gluing up is the same as anything else, apart from leave it a little bit longer. Right, now I'm not going to go through gluing up and stuff in this video, because it's going to be long enough with me trying to answer all these questions, right? So I'm just going to glue these up and I'll be back in a sec. Right, now we're set up the turn days. The tube glue's gone off. I've left it a bit longer than I would with wood because it needs it, right? I flush down to the ends of the tubes as normal. Do it whatever way you do it. If you do it sanding, that's fine. If you do it with pen mill, that's fine. Do it whatever way you want. It doesn't make a difference. Right, turning antler. Basically, turn it at the same speed you would if you were doing a normal pen, right? My preferred, excuse me, my preferred is about 2000, right? And it's the same as turning the normal pen when you're turning it, right? Round it down. Nothing special. Right. Just make sure your tools are really sharp. Now, because this antler has been aged properly, I am not getting a really strong smell here. Right. This is going to be a pretty pen. Pull cut that out. As I said, just turn it as you would turn any normal pen. As I the reason I want to try this kit is that I want a kit that's basically the same width as a slimline, but that has a Parker refill in it. Pull the shape into it. Right, that one's still a bit heavy up the top here, just there. So I'll pull it down a little bit more. My wife actually came up with this lady's pen because she doesn't like heavy pens. Right. And there we are, torn down. Right, there's only a tiny little bit of marrow showing, so I'll have to show you on that other kit how to take care of marrow. As I said, I'm trying to get all of this into one video. Little ridge there, there's a small little ridge there I don't want. Get rid of it, get rid of it. There's another tiny ridge there that I don't want. Yep, right. Now I'm going to sand this, and what I'm not going to do is turn on an extractor. Right, and I'll tell you why now. The dust off this stuff is gold dust. I actually keep a little box of it. Right. Now all I want to do is sand it as I would anything normal, except for the one thing is this sanding dust is gold dust. Don't dump it. There's a few ways of handling the marrow, but if you have a little stock of this stuff, it makes it a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, and by the way, if you ever see this green sandpaper, don't buy it. It's terrible. It falls apart. I went down to the local hardware to get some sandpaper a couple of weeks ago. Longer, a couple of weeks now. And what had actually happened was they'd rearranged the shop, and the normal red sandpaper that I use had been moved to a different stand, and this green stuff was there in its place. So I thought I should have asked. Well, me being me, I didn't. I thought they were after changing brands. So brown sandpaper. It's not. This stuff is terrible. Right. So as I said, you sand as normal. See, this would be my normal sandpaper that I use. Sand as normal, but the thing to remember is that, like wood, Antler has a grain. Like bone has a grain. Because, as I said earlier, it is bone. So, stop and sand with the grain. Now what I want is some thin CA, just to sort out that little bit there of where there was is it thin or thick? Oh, it's thick. Grab the wrong one. Just to grab or just to sort out where that little bit of marrow was. And what I'm doing is I'm solidifying. There's a little crack there. Hit that as well. I'm solidifying the sanding dust into that marrow. Right. This is what this is for. Right. If you get a piece that has a lot of marrow on it, right, and just sand it in. Because what happens is that sanding dust goes in to the marrow and it fills all those little holes and it makes it really solid. And that will sort out any problems you have with marrow. Right? As I said, just to go through that again, what I'll do is I'll put one of the other kits on at the end of the video. Right? One that I know there's a load of marrow in, and we'll use this sanding dust to sort out the marrow. Right, yet again, gold dust, don't lose it. Right. Sand with the grain, and that's that sanded, right? So it doesn't need a lot. Like what I used there was 118-240. Right. Finishing it is other questions I got asked. How do you finish it? Right. Okay. Number one, do not put a finish on it. Right, I'm just cleaning it off with some mets at the moment, or what do you call it in the States again? Denatured alcohol. Right, spin it up to dry it. Right, do not put a finish onto Antler. Antler finishes beautifully itself. So if you can avoid putting a finish onto something, do, because the finish is a weakness in a turning. Right, now I'm sorry there's so much waffle in this video, but as I said, I'm trying to answer all the questions. Right. Now what I have is sanding sealer. As I said, remember this is a lot closer to wood than you would think. Right, and I'm using my normal shellac based sanding sealer. Right. Spin it up, let it dry. In case anybody's wondering, I use Ruston sanding sealer, shellac based one, but I cut it with mets or denatured alcohol because it makes it dry really quickly. Right. Then what I'm going to use is Yorkshire Grit Standard. And you don't need a whole hell of a lot of it. That's now dry. And I'll show you what you're looking for when you're doing this. Right. Put some on, put some on. Still far too much on that, so I'll scrape it off back into the tub. And I'm going to start at about 600. Now, you see the way you can start to see black coming on that. That's coming off the bushings, okay? But it tells you when the Yorkshire Grit is nearly ready to come off, right? And once you see the black, speed it up a bit, right? And it'll just get blacker and blacker and blacker. Don't worry, it does not stain the antler. But what you're looking for is that blackness. You're looking for the Yorkshire grit to go black. As I said, it's coming off the bushings. It's just an indication. See the way it's gone black? It's just an indication that the Yorkshire grit is done. Now that black is only, you're only looking for that on Antler. If you're doing this with a wooden pen, do not look for that black, because you probably won't see it. But you can always see it on the Antler, right? Right, clot's going back clean, right? So that's the Yorkshire grit. Now there's a fair shine on that, but it's not good enough. Now I'm going to use Yorkshire grit microfine on it. Microfine was designed for resin, but it really works well on Antler. Right, you don't need to drop your speed at all. I'm up at 900 now. And I'm looking for the same thing. I'm looking for the black to start coming, because it means the microphone has now worked. Yet again, I'm not getting a smell because the Antler has aged. Right? If you're getting a really strong smell of it, your Antler's too fresh, basically, right? I said it's the biggest question I get asked. Right, see the black starting to come in. Right, a nice clean cloth back again. And now we're going to finish it. And as I said, I'm not putting a finish on it, right? Hopefully the camera is picking up the shine that's on that at the moment. There is a gorgeous shine on it. It is as smooth as anything, but I can make the shine deep, which is why we put finishes on things. It's to make the shine deep, right? And what I'm going to use, I've said this before in videos, in Antler videos, if anybody's seen one, is Brasso, right? Brasso is a metal polish, right? And like any metal polish, it's an abrasive. That's what it does. It abrades. Put a little bit onto each one. Let it dry for a couple of seconds, long enough for me to close the tin. And now I'm just going to do the exact same with this. And you will see it's dull, 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 and all of a sudden it just goes pop, and it's shiny. It's really shiny. You'll know it when you see it. Yeah, that one's starting to pop now. CA finishes and stuff on Antler don't really work too well, right? But polish the Antler itself, right? And it really works well. Why would you put a finish on something that can take a finish itself? You don't need to add something. As I said, it's another weakness that you've put into your turning. And there we go. Look at the shine on that thing. Why would I put something on top of that? There's absolutely no need, because that is perfect. Right, now I've just got to assemble this kit. Then I'll do that bit with the other kit to show you how to handle the marrow. And that'll be the end of this video. As I said, sorry about so much waffle going on in it, but I'm trying to answer the questions that I was asked. Right, so I'll set up for putting this together. I'll be back in a sec. Right then, we're ready to assemble this. And as I've said on all my other pen videos, if you're not 100% sure how to put a pen together, have the instructions. Right. So here we go. Right. And then pick which one is my upper tube. As much of a match as I can. That looks like a pretty half decent match. Or that way, I think. Right then. Now, this bit. This bit. In there. Crank it in. Sure that's the way I want this. Right. Yes, Seth, I'm still using your thingy. Threaded brass insert goes in next. Which one's the threaded brass insert? That's the threaded brass insert there. So that goes in there. Press it home. Right. So I'm reading the instructions here as we're going. The lower tube goes on next. Try and match up that marking. And the tip. Tip is solid on this kit by the looks of it. Right. Get it out of the way because I don't need it anymore. Open up the cap. Right then. We have the click sleeve, it's already in it. The button extension, which is that. The click shaft, which is a big heavy duty one, which I like. Right. That in. Is that to push it up? Right. Put on the click cover, or the click spring, and the click button. Right. Works fine, and the click button is nice and tight. Right. Take the little piece of rubber off the top. Grab the spring, stick it over, put it in that end, and screw the whole pen together. And there we have the new ladies' pen. Right. And it's light as well, which is what my wife said it should be. Right then, now, right, that's that kit done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick one of those other ones on. I'll turn it down until I get down to the marrow, and I'll come back then, right, to show you how to deal with this marrow. Right, so I'll be back in a sec. Right then, this one has a load of marrow on it, which is good. It's exactly what I'm looking for. Right, first thing I'm going to do is sand it with the 180. Way too fast. Right, I'm going to sand it with 180. Before I do anything else, right, sand it down to shape with 180. Just a light sanding. Just get any ridges or anything off it to make it easier. Yet again, save that. Now that the first sanding is done, right, there's loads of holes there where the marrow was, right. Now an awful lot of the sanding dust has got into it. But what I want to do is get the sanding dust that I've saved and rub it into that marrow. Do you see the way it's filling the holes? You will actually feel it on your fingers if the holes are filled or not. Right? Now you can do this in a slurry method as well, which I've shown in another video, and if you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link up for it and a link below to how to do this with a slurry method. It's just, if you can save this stuff, this makes this so much easier. Right. And once you've rubbed that in, some thin CA over the top to lock it in place. Right. And that is your marrow filled and solidified all in one go. Now before that dries, slide your sanding down and give it a quick sanding, because it will even everything out. Any sanding dust you create will go in and fill even the slightest little gap that you've left. It's basically just the slurry method right at the end. Right, you see these little bits of sanding dust coming off it. Just rub your sandpaper in to make it go in. And the top of this pen is actually going to have to get dumped because it's not right. I think I've said this before in videos, if something isn't perfect, don't lose your reputation. If you look there, there's a gap there, and that's not good enough. So this top part of this one is going to have to get dumped. Right. And down to the 240. And then it's all the same as I just did in the other one. And there's no sense in you going through all that again. As I said, I'm just trying to answer all the questions I was asked in one place. And again, sorry for all the waffling that was in this. Right. But I was trying to answer questions. This was really a how-to kind of video. And then you see, right, that's going to need some more sanding there because it's scratched in the middle. But all of that marrow is now just as solid as the white. And that's how you sort that little problem out. That is one of the most asked questions I get. How do I get solid? How do I solidify that part? And that's the answer. That's how you do it. So if you got anything out of that one, or like the video, if you wouldn't mind clicking like on the video, and I'll see you in the next one.